I'm watching as the National Guard shop gets set and drew prophecy of soldiers with bayonets. Martial law coming, all you blind, it's bigger than curfews. You're stateless and they living off your virtues. Vampiric, touching their hair, you calling them rude. Blacks are dead carcasses, they see energy food. While you riot and run among us, Moors look and cuss blacks out, Moorish Uncle Ruckus. You incompetent, not descendable, playing a fool. Or maybe not playing, cause I don't get what you're saying. You burn your own community down to the ground, but won't light up a precinct. You coward ass clowns, giving cars black eyes and windows busted lips. And the unity of CIA funded Bloods and Crips can be a step in the direction of King Alfred plan. If you wanna really be free, kill that straw man. Let it burn, burn, baby burn. Maybe they would learn, learn, maybe learn. Let it burn, burn, baby burn. Maybe they would learn, learn, maybe learn. Let it burn, burn, baby burn. Maybe they would learn, learn, maybe learn. Let it burn, burn, baby burn. Maybe they would learn, learn, maybe learn. In this electrifying age, they use weapons of sound. So yo, we shall overcome chance, all get drowned. Pepper spraying bystanders, the new water hose. Most rioters are undercover pros in black clothes. So on the first projectile to start the riot infection. Disappear in the crowd, get you for insurrection. Enemy combatant status is prisoner of war. Blacks accepted slave status when they're from these shores. The slave ships are your projects and prisons you love dearly, where your children get killed in yearly. You better hear me, handcuffs are the new noose. Clansmen trade sheets for badges and new suits. You damage, you loot, thinking that's petty crime. Marching for rights and revolving door prison pipelines. Either you wake up now or continue to suffer. Live under the thumb and watch for eye of Big Brother. Let it burn, burn, baby burn. Maybe they would learn, learn, maybe learn. Let it burn, burn, baby burn. Maybe they would learn, learn, maybe learn. Let it burn, burn, baby burn. Maybe they would learn, learn, maybe learn. Let it burn, burn, baby burn. Maybe they would learn, learn, maybe learn. True Ali had the solution if you would only listen. The new world order is standing on an older system. All that matters is you think before you feel, and recognize nobody talks in front the pyramid seal. And upside down the shadow becomes a 7. Stop acting like Rosie, life is not the Jetsons. In reality, life is more like having X-Men gifts. Dimension shift when you recite hieroglyphs. Open your chakras, kundalini energy shifts. Higher self out the lower desk, start feeling the split. Start getting your mind forward, not keeping your mind black. Watch where you walk, I've seen people swallowed by cracks. Stop talking, kill crackers, posing with gas. The truth, it's time to plug in like a phone jack. Finally make the connection, make the correction. Blacks are abused for statelessness, not your complexion. Let it burn, burn, baby burn. Maybe they would learn, learn, maybe learn. Let it burn, burn, baby burn. Let it burn, burn, baby burn. Let it burn, burn, baby burn. Maybe they would learn, learn, maybe learn. Maybe they would learn, learn, maybe learn. Maybe they would learn, learn, maybe learn. Burn, burn.
Islam, Moors.
Islam. So we want to do the prayer, right?
Huh?
Prayer?
Yeah. Five on the left, two on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth.
Peace.
Freedom. And justice. Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
And
my salvation.
By night.
And by day. Through his holy prophet. Noble Drew Ali. Islam. Islam to all Moors. We're just going to start with our readings to be read every meeting. A warning from the Prophet to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must put an end to all radical and agitating speeches while on their jobs, homes, or on the public streets. We advocate peace and not destruction. Stop trying out your cards with the Europeans, for it causes confusion. There has been much confusion caused by members trying out their cards. The cards are for your salvation. Failure of obeying my orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, Justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members that seek to hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet, or to violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors must obey the laws laid down to them by their prophet, and if they lose confidence in their prophet, give up your card and button, cease wearing your turban or fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. For this is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet is sending out a divine plea to all true Moorish Americans that they may do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Noble Ali. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam. These are the instructions from your holy prophet, from your prophet Noble Ali. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is now on, but the weak comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I Noble Ali. And that is why many hearts have been turned to stone. Many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they will be confounded of their sins. These are trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your prophet and to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest. The ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. These ones. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace, your divine prophet, Noble Ali. To be proclaimed in every meeting. Islam. I'm glad to know I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people on our side of the nation that claim it was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme they can to disqualify me, so they themselves may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I am calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works which I have performed in the last few years. Islam.
Islam.
Intent and motives to becoming, adopting what was laid down by Noble Ali. We are constantly taking a position of making sure that the folliness of the Moorish movement is exposed and put out front.
Sorry, say the last part again?
The folliness of the Moorish movement, the things that have crept in, the dead carcasses that came into the Moorish movement under the guise of assisting the people, helping the people, etc.
You mean the fraudulent
or the temples, fraudulent individuals, right, or the, you know what I mean, groups, etc.
Or the undermining,
the opportunistic people, right? It's
hotel pro operators.
Yeah, it's been a constant theme with us to make sure that those people that are in these activities are known about, that it's not a hidden thing. Because the people might have good intentions, but what's their motives behind what they're doing? Right? It's somebody has to be a thinking individual to put a fez on. Right? Somebody has to be a thinking individual to proclaim a nationality, say L or B.
You're saying that for people with good intentions, or you're saying that across the
Just
board?
across the board. Because you wouldn't get as far as having a fez and L and B if you didn't know what was up.
But
You're not gonna do that in faking.
No, but I disagree, because I thought that that's what we're talking about, to the extent that there are lots of people who put fezzes on and put L and B on the back,
Right.
on their names to do bad stuff.
But that might not be their intent. That might be there might be motive behind why they're doing bad stuff.
Right. Well,
It might not be their intention to do bad things, just for the simple fact that they have enough common sense to know put a fez on and have LB, even if they're doing bad stuff. Because if it didn't matter, then they would just do it as Negro black colored. So there's motive behind the intentions. The intentions are sitting on their own. So we have individuals, we have people who their motives and their intentions are good. There's people who come in this really to assist fellow man. Then there's people that come into this to undermine fellow man. But the fact that they're the fact that they're undermining fellow man as L's and B's with fezzes and Moroccan flags and stuff like that, and speaking from the place of having pure intent, that means they know what it is. They're taking a position of going against what they know what this is.
oh, you're coming from the perspective that they know what's right, but
They're choosing to do what's wrong.
Yeah, like for like I get you, cause you see, for them to, they don't just put on that face and don't even have a clue what it is.
Exactly.
No. And for you get that far, whatever comments and whatever you just like you said, the motive there.
Right.
There's gotta be something.
There has to be something
There
else.
has to be something else. Just
It
for
can't
you to
just
get that
be-
far. No.
It can't just be, you know what I mean, they're dirty, because people get mad when we say, oh yeah, certain people are dirty Moors or whatever, and then, you know, they might not consider themselves that because they wrote a book, and Mubujwali said write books, or, you know what I mean, they're teaching classes, and Mubujwali said have a school. Yeah, but I mean, what are the motives behind you doing that? So Mubujwali said have a school, but your classes are 500, then that cancels out your intentions. Right? If Mubujwali says, wear fezzes, and then people are leading Moorish groups with fezzes that are marked, and Mubujwali said don't mark the fez, then there's something else.
There you go.
Because you have to recognize what is when you come into this and you're claiming that you're going to start a new group, or you're going to start a new organization, you're going to start something for Moors to be part of, because they have to start something, because what Mubujwali brought obviously isn't enough. Right? When you can't even say that it's enough, because that's the Prophet. Why wouldn't what he brought be enough? Why does there have to be all these Moors making all these wheels when we have a wheel already? We already got wheels. We don't need no more wheels.
It's like you don't even have to, for example, say what they call wrong and right. It doesn't take much to know that's not right or that's not wrong,
Right.
or whatever. It doesn't take much to know that. And then now, for the fact that you get to know yourself and know all that you think you were, you're not. This is who you are and supposed to be. Now, no part of you're not supposed to want to go back to do
Right,
that.
go back to doing the other stuff.
And that wasn't
Exactly.
even mine from the beginning. Why would you want to,
Right.
So you gotta be something inside of you to
Right.
make you want to go mess with that again, or go, you know, lead
So-
people that way again, while you over here pretending you're on your, you know, your square, and then leading people in different directions.
Right. So people with messed up motives, most of the time, people, as far as, you know, in the Moorish paradigm, people who have messed up motives usually have multiple names. Whether it's multiple name of an organization, whether it's multiple name of whatever it is that they started, some group, whether it's they themselves have multiple names. So like today they had a name, and then last 5 years ago they had a different name than they got today. But and then in the future they're gonna have a different name, but they're still pushing the same ideal. But they keep changing who they are. Right? One of the individuals that we're gonna use to show the motive aspect of going against what the intentions are is Dr. York, who wrote his book, Who is Noble Drew Ali? Copyright 1980. So since 1980 he knew, right? Copyright 1980. Now this is way before them getting the land in Atlanta and all that stuff. It's way before that. It's way before pyramids in Georgia and stuff like that, right? As we're gonna find out, people take certain things relative to Noble Drew Ali and then tie them to other things to get what Noble Drew Ali identified was the fame and nobility. Individuals jealous of his fame and nobility, once they're jealous of his fame and nobility, they will do things to undermine him. And the things that they're doing to directly undermine him, the levels that they go to undermine him are done so that people can reject anything that he presents. Because all these individuals who claim to be leaders of our people, all of them know about Noble Drew Ali's program. All of them are very familiar with who Noble Drew Ali is. And it shows malicious intent to have this information relative to Noble Drew Ali and what he brought, and then to go against that, to do your own thing. And it's not like, you know, they're going against to do their own thing and keeping Noble Drew Ali out their mouth or whatever. Right? They're doing their own thing and gaining their footing by using Noble Drew Ali as the starting block to put their foot on so they can get an extra push. Right? So we have page 72 in Who is Noble Drew Ali, dealing with the flag. Right? And we also want to keep in mind that when we talk about this nation called Nuwapians, they are Moors. They are Nuwapian nation of Moors. So Nuwapians are Moors. Moors aren't Nuwapians. Right? Nation of Islam are Moors. Moors aren't Nation of Islam. Rastafarians are Moors. Moors aren't Rastafari. Okay. According to Noble Drew Ali, the 5 points on the star of the flag represent 1, truth, 2, love, 3, peace, 4, justice, 5, freedom. Asterisk, the 6 would be equality. Right, so Noble Drew Ali told the Moors, the 5 points on the star represent 5 principles. Dr. York's telling people that there's actually 6 principles in his writing, right? Which would be quote unquote equality, right? But if this was a principle, Noble Drew Ali would have mentioned it. So equality is not a principle, right? Equality is no different than multiculturalism. Equality is no different than all the other social engineering that the people are trained to believe runs society. Equality doesn't run society, because if there was equality, there wouldn't be no poor people or rich people and all that stuff.
Equal. Live.
Across the board, it would
Live.
It would be right.
So I must have missed something. You said there were 6 principles, and you're saying the 6th was equality, or no?
There's 5 principles.
Right.
Malachi York saying that there's 6 principles.
And then how does the equality tie
Because he
into?
said that's the 6th principle.
Oh.
All right. It was customary for the Moorish flag to be displayed next to the American flag, and his followers were not opposed to pledging allegiance to it. So now again, he's going off the pattern of quote unquote Moorish Science Temple that were the infiltration that made him look at Moorish Science Temple with the warped perspective that he looked at it in his early years as Al-Hadi Al-Mahdi, Al-Imam Isa. Right, Malachi York. Before he was Malachi York, was Sayyid Al-Imam Isa. Before. Right? So as Imam Isa, which is dealing with Islam, recognizing that Islamism is really what our religion is, right? So being that our religion is Islamism, and he's representing at that time Islam, they had to say certain things, do certain things to make sure that Noble Drew Ali's program is looked at from a warped perspective. Making sure that the version of Islam that he has gets praised, while the version of Islam that Noble Drew Ali presented is not really what it is. But everybody in the so-called conscious community or whatever knows that Noble Drew Ali is the founder of Islam in America amongst so-called black people. It's a fact amongst them that he took this position of being the one to present Islam in its proper context to all the people, right? Who wanted freedom, who thought their conditions could be better, etc. Right? The Moorish flag was to be displayed next to the American flag, right, which is a fiction, because the U.S. flag American flag, right? U.S. flag is the Stars and Stripes. American flag is the Moroccan flag. But again, knowing the intent behind what Noble Drew Ali was presenting. No, because he knew what the intent was. He knew Noble Drew Ali was coming to free all his people. Right? To make a name for yourself, you're gonna have to talk bad about somebody who came before you. Right? You're gonna have to create confusion in people looking back toward that. So him acknowledging that the Moors were not opposed to pledging allegiance to the American flag, that means Moors were showing allegiance to that flag, because this is the American flag. The Stars and Stripes isn't classified as the American flag, shouldn't be classified as the American flag.
The United States.
United States Admiralty banner. And the only way that is a flag of amity and commerce. So that's the only way they can call Stars and Stripes a flag, if they say flag of this. If they don't say flag of this, then they're talking about banner. Right? It was this red flag with the green star that Noble Drew Ali used as the Moorish national flag. It is similar to the same flag that Marcus Garvey claimed for the Back to Africa movement, the red, black, and the green flag of the Mahdi Muhammad Ahmed ibn Abdullah, which was altered. The spear, crescent, and Arabic inscription were removed. Noble Drew Ali did the Nubian a great service when he claimed your true flag from the archives in Washington, D.C., which had been an American possession for 130 years. Right? Wasn't an American possession. Right? The possession was really by the colonial powers. The possession was by foreigners who were pretending to be what we would say is the government. They were pretending to be that. Because they weren't that, they can't claim that they're American. And he can't claim that they're American. And as soon as you have individuals that, again, directly go against what the teachings were, we have to question their motives. This dates back to the time of the Mahdi, Muhammad Ahmed ibn Abdullah of the Sudan, when he was declared the Mahdi. So when Noble Drew Ali said he was going back to reclaim the flag of his people, he was actually speaking of the flag of the Mahdi, which bears the Kalimat, not the Moroccan flag today. And again, the whole idea of the red, black, green flag, the whole concept of the red, black, green flag comes directly out of, according to this, the flag with the spear, the crescent, and the Arabic inscription at the top. Now, Noble Drew Ali also told the Moors that we shall not be compared to any Back to Africa movement. So it's an impossibility that Noble Drew Ali claimed the red, black, green flag as the flag when you go into the literature, he directly gives you the description of your flag. Tells you how it looks, tells you what the symbols on it mean. And again, like we were talking about in class last week, the Moroccan flag Noble Drew Ali told the Moors that it goes back over 10,000 years. So there's nobody that should be coming to anybody that's Asiatic in America with a flag that's not this, and saying that that's the national flag, or that's the governmental flag, or that's the whatever flag. This is the flag right here. Nothing trumps 10,000 years as far as any flag that anybody's coming with right now. Because nobody made the claim that their flag has been around that long. They just had the flag, started pushing that as the flag or whatever. Now we question, well, how long has that flag been around? Everybody diverting and going and talking about other things, opposed to dealing with the history of what they claim to represent, right? By 1971 AD, the Moorish Science Temple had circulated a publication entitled Moorish Sense. A picture of the cover logo is shown below. The flag of Morocco claimed by the Moorish Americans to establish their newly found nationality. The American flag, a symbol of their compliance with the system that they live in, not of. The symbol of the eye of God, which is an actuality the eye of Nimrod, the pale man's god. The same symbol appears on the dollar bill. This shaded area on the United States map represents the areas populated by various Moorish Science temples. And then that was pretty much like the whole thing. The pyramid recalls the origin of Noble Drew Ali's knowledge and wisdom. Noble Drew Ali raised the consciousness of the poor and gave them hope in the face of poverty and despair. Quote, humanity must be lifted from the unwholesome depths of poverty, misery, and suffering, and placed on the solid rock of salvation. There are some who claim to do this, but upon investigation, one finds that they have slouched under the wings of their cross to extract from those who come to them means by which they can have the pleasures of this life while they point their followers to the joy after death. While they feed their sheep, they also shear them while eating. At the close of their day, the master will be heard to tell them, you have your reward, get thee hence. Allah, He is free from all defects, holy and transcendent. He is personal to us insofar as we see His attributes working for us and in us. But He is nevertheless impersonal because He is infinite, perfect, and holy. We know that death, decay, nor sleep overtakes Him. Neither do we believe that He is helplessly inactive and inert force. Nothing happens without His knowledge and will. He neither begets nor is He begotten, because these are the traits of frail, weak humanity. These were their goals then. These are their goals now. We must have unity, success, truth, justice, peace, freedom, love, and joy. Noble Drew Ali accepted many customs and symbols from the Masonic Lodge, a secret pseudo-religious fraternity. Certain parts of Noble Drew Ali's uniform, as well as the names El and Bey, were taken from the Masons. Noble Drew Ali also borrowed the name Noble and other customs and symbols from the Shriners, which is a secret fraternity that was designed for the Amorite in mockery of Islam. For example, the Shriners adopted the crescent from the Muslims who migrated up into Europe to bring the Caucasians out of the Dark Ages, which was the start of the Renaissance. The identification card on the following pages is a pass used by Shriners in their mockery of Islam. The Arabic inscription depicts the specific time period that the Prophet Mustafa Muhammad Alamim and his faithful followers, Ansars, fled from Mecca to Medina due to religious persecution. As you will notice from the photograph on the previous page, Noble Drew Ali's dress and mannerisms were taken from Masonry and the ancient Arabic order of the mystic shrine, because he himself was a mason of a high degree as well as a shriner. Now for him to say all that, but then for him to go there so openly and boldly, but then not call out himself for doing Masonic stuff and having Masonic stuff and having names of Masonic stuff on his groups and organizations or whatever,
Is this Dr. Malachi?
lets you know that he found out stuff later. So his initial motive was to be popular, to be somebody. Disrespect the prophet, get people to look at that as he doesn't know what he's talking about. Esau knows what he's talking about. But then later on, same individual, like we're saying, with everybody had these different names, that's how you could know people have malicious intentions as well. Because they never keep their same name. They always got a different name when their original plan flops. Right? So now as the Grand Master of the ancient and mystic order of Melchizedek, he's carrying on or wearing all the stuff that he was dissing Noble Drew Ali, saying that has nothing to do with us. How come? How come Noble Drew Ali is doing that, or he stole that stuff from Masons or whatever? Right? You want to see that one?
Is this Dr. Malachi?
Yeah. You got the intent back there and motive. He took the mockery of Islam from the Shriners and used it along with the teachings he learned from traveling to Egypt, and came up with a concept of Islam that stopped the entire nation. He shows the Nubians, Moors, that Islam was the religion of their forefathers and the religion they should follow. When Noble Drew Ali is not pictured dressed in his turban, he is seen wearing a fez. The fez is the headdress worn by the Shriners. It was the Masons who brought this dress to the East. Fez was one of the 4 traditional capitals of Morocco and was a great Islamic center of learning. The fez, also known as tarbush, was customarily worn by students of a great school in the city of Fez, Morocco. It has come to be known as a mark of learning. In actuality, the tarbush is what the Muslims here in the West wear, and it has similar significance to that of the fez. The tarbush is our crowning of the head and is literally a symbol of authority and knowledge. As the pyramid is a storehouse of knowledge, so is the brain of the wearer's head considered to be. Notice the similarity between the fez and the graduation cap. Turn it upside down and add a square, and you get the international symbol of graduation. The square is the foundation of the pyramid, and the tassel is the symbol of the final bell. To the Moorish Americans, their fez represents the supreme height of wisdom and practical knowledge of the science of the 12 zodiac signs. So, him going that far lets you know, right, that he even had information dealing with Clock of Destiny and Great Seal that he was ciphering through in order to write his, masterpiece or whatever, scroll number 109 or whatever it is, on Noble Drew Ali, where he pretty much throws Noble Drew Ali under a bus through the whole book. Right? And again, we're looking at somebody who was post Noble Drew Ali. So if he comes after, there's no way that certain information that he's presenting is right and exact and how it is. But again, because the people had missed the boat in 1929 when Noble Drew Ali was around, all the bastards that they have to deal with now is because of their lack of knowing who he was from the start.
What was the other one, motive?
Yeah, motive and intent. Right? Because it can't more like Noble Drew Ali told the Moors defend their prophet and their temple. Right? The temple is the storehouse for the information. Right? So in protecting the temple, you're also protecting the information that comes from that institution. In protecting the prophet, you're also protecting the principles and protecting the flag and protecting all the other stuff that he brought. And it's very it's a high obligation for Moors to take the position of making sure that they defend their prophet, because ain't nobody gonna do it but them. Ain't no highwayman or no, you know what I mean, gonna be coming here to try and pump him up for us. If we don't push Noble Drew Ali and push what it is that he presented, then it's not going to get talked about, which is again why he said we should have our own stuff, have our own paper, have our own schools, have our own sheiks to do our ceremonies, have our own everything. But as soon as we have other people, as soon as we're dealing with other people, we're going to have problems, right? Because they're not going to be able to tell us completely what it is, right? We're the ones that have the obligations. We're the ones that are Moors. You can't expect other people to do what Moors are supposed to do. Moors have to be doing those things. And again, it starts with recognizing that this is about a birthright. And when the more people that we deal with that are of other nations, we realize how importantly they take their birthright. We think that birthright is just whatever, cause we found out about this, we're the Moors, and we did some research, and you know our legacy is great, so we don't have to do anything. More reason why you have to do something, because everybody's coming at your head if you're that great. The greatest guy is not sitting on the podium just chilling, and then nobody's not trying to take his head if they're the greatest, if they're the number one or whatever. They got ample amount of people trying to take them down. And this is where it's going with people on the attack against active Moors who have been putting this work out. Because they realize that their so-called evil motives and malicious intentions are catching up to them. And day by day, they're becoming less and less popular. Their little groups are dwindling down because people are starting to realize that priest is dead and nobody can save them but themselves. No individual is coming to help anybody. It's going to be those individuals who want help, they're going to go study and they're going to help themselves. Or they continue being in the BS that they were in. You got intention back there?
You want intent?
Yeah, whichever one first, doesn't matter.
Okay, so intent, design, resolve, or determination with which person acts. Witters v. United States, whatever. It goes on to a couple of cases. And being a state of mind is rarely susceptible of direct proof, but must ordinarily be inferred from the facts. It presupposes knowledge. Another case law. Intent and motive are not in law one and the same thing. Intent in legal sense is purpose to use particular means to effect certain results, whereas motive is reason which leads minds to desire that result. Intent expresses mental action at its most advanced point, whereas it actually accompanies an outward corporal act which has been determined on. Intent shows the presence of will in the act which consummates a crime. It is the exercise of intelligent will, the mind being fully aware of the nature and consequences of the act which is about to be done, and with knowledge and with full liberty of action, willing and electing to do it.
Read the last two.
Read that
After
again.
presence of intelligent will.
Okay, sorry. Intent shows the presence of will in the act which consummates a crime. It is the exercise of intelligent will, the mind being fully aware of the nature and consequences of the act which is about to be done, and with such knowledge and with full liberty of action, willing and electing to do it.
So determination, intent and motive are not the same, and keep in mind that the intent and the motive words are definitions that we use coming out of the law dictionary. So you know that these words have a broader perspective than what we think they have, right? Intent, mental action. So there has to be something already in thought that this individual sees an outcome. There's already something that they are willing to manifest, right? Intelligent will, right? So the idea of intent, if the presence of the will is intelligent in intent, that means malicious intent is something opposite than this. Malicious intent is its own entity, not to be confused, put in comparison with intent just because the words there, the same words there, right? If you have intentions, they should automatically be intelligent or of good. You can't have bad intentions. If you have bad intentions, you're probably feeding off motive. There's probably something that is driving the individual, right? Popularity, driving the individual. Because he got a taste of popularity when he was an R&B singer. So he knew what it meant to be popular. He already had that vibration. It's no different than the Negro black colored guy that held a gun. The ones that have pure intentions probably won't end up doing anything with it. The ones that have evil motives are the ones you have to worry about. Because those are the individuals that are going to always have an excuse as to why they did something.
Motive.
There's always going to be something. Because remember that the motive that they have, right? They're not going to come out and say that that's what it is. It's going to be disguised. So when we see people today that represent Malachi York, but they don't want to acknowledge that he put out a Circle 7 for Nuwapians to have a Circle 7 for Nuwapians. Not a Moorish Science Temple version, a Nuwapian one. So that the people who were under his group could have access to Noble Drew Ali's information. And then in order to counteract them taking this out of circulation, which is what they did, took this out of circulation, right? That you can't get this book anymore. As far as in the school of Nuwapianism is concerned, this book is not accessible, right? When we go further, we realize that he even put the Circle 7 Quran in the holy tablets. which is the Nuwapian holy book. So he took this book, put it in the Nuwapian holy book. So this entire book is also in the Nuwapian holy book, which again cancels out his motive. Because in the end, he went to court, had on his red fez and all that stuff. He went with a black fez with the ankh on it and all that stupid stuff that these guys are playing is what it means to be Nuwapian. Right? If he's so Nuwapian, how come he went to court with the red fez? How come he didn't go with the black fez with the ankh on it? If he's so Nuwapian, right? Cancel out his motive. Because he realized that he gave himself up. Because he went against what the foundation was. He knew, right? You know? Intelligent will was present when he wrote this, or when he prepared this, when he wrote Who is Noble Drew Ali? The intelligent will was present. He knew better, but chose to do his own thing. Then later on, when the stuff catch up to him, then they go back. They revert to down with Noble Drew Ali and Moors and starting to teach really what it is, you know, no different than all the so-called leaders who said, forget these groups or whatever like that, I'm going to go over here and study. And then when they went over here and studied, that's when they really found out what it is, what it's really about. That's when they found out about Noble Drew Ali. That's when they found out about the connection that all these individuals have to Noble Drew Ali, which is a connection that all these individuals now have with Moors or Moorish nationality or birthrights, or, you know what I mean, right? We were talking about some classes ago, the Holy Bible of Jinn, where when I went to Seattle, there was a brother there that was Canaanite, and his position was that, you know, he's open to learning, right? He wants to learn. So we're like, you know, whatever, you know, but you give me a disclaimer that, you know, I go ahead, beat up the Moors in this book. You know, like, this is not, you know, you're not going to be happy when you read stuff about the Moors in this book or whatever. Now, we also know that this is a second print, because there was so many flaws in the first print as far as the information or whatever that he had to rewrite. Okay, so we want to go through some pages in this just to inspire people again to make sure that when you go out there and you say, you know, you're studying, researching or whatever, and you bump into certain information, books, whatever like that, don't just because it says Moors go buy it, or because it whatever seems to be appealing to you, go get it. Check with some Moors. Call some Moors, find out, hey, you ever heard about this book? You ever read this book? You know what I mean? What's this dealing with? Because you're going to end up wasting time. Read through all this, waste your time, read through all this to realize that it ain't even doing nothing for you. Right? And we're using this one as an example because the brother said, you know, go through the book with a fine-tooth comb. Right?
Yeah, the dome is that over there.
Yeah, they're pushing that whole, you know, flat earth stuff. Yeah. Right. Right. Earth's flat, but, you know, moon's not flat, and sun's not flat, and, you know, Saturn and all these other stuff's not flat. That's out there as well, with Earth, right? And then again, we have to remind people, you know, because, you know, with the dumbing down of the people, they forget what they already know, right? And People forget that the Europeans is the ones who thought the world was flat. During the Dark Ages, when they were stupid. That you're going to sail to the end and fall off the edge. That's what flat means. If we're going to go in a boat and then we're going to reach the edge of Earth and not go off, then clearly it's not flat. If it's flat, we should, oh, well, there's a dome over the, well, if there's a dome, then it's not flat. Because the sky and all that stuff is included in Earth. That's not separate from Earth.
But whenever they say that, though, they're not saying it like that. They just mean that in comparison to the globe theory, which is a lie, we're not living on a ball. Right?
But it's impossible because it's called spheres. It's called sphere. Sphere is not flat.
This is called sphere?
Northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere.
We also call it a planet, which is a planet.
There's another word for it, hemi.
Right?
Hemi for half. Right? So the dome, that'd be the half of it. The plane of it is a flat surface. And
Okay, but again, if it's flat, then mountains aren't flat. So you can't say it's flat, but then show me mountains. Because if mountains are on the flat thing, then it looks like this, so it's not flat.
does this earth...
I'm not saying about dome or whatever, I'm saying it ain't flat.
But does it curve like people tell you to?
I'm on it, so I don't know. I never been out there to know what it looks like out there. Being on it, I know that it's not flat because there's mountains. If there's mountains, it's not flat.
I'm gonna tell you, you see that horizon line, that line that's flat and straight, that will never change no matter how high the altitude that you go. So even when they talk about outer space,
that line wouldn't even include altitude because that's dealing with Earth.
Okay, but there's a limit that man cannot go, and they cannot go to outer space. So anything that you've heard about man traveling to the moon, Mars, any other planets, they can't, because that thing that they're showing the dome, it's called the firmament, and they've even sent rockets that can't even penetrate this firmament. So that's how they know that there's a dome here.
No.
But as for underneath it, so if you've ever seen a snow globe, that's pretty much what they're trying to depict.
So that means that Earth's been flat since the beginning of time.
The plane of it, yes.
All right. So if it's and the dome's been there since the beginning of time,
Yeah.
and then people can't get out. Okay, so how do people get in? Because not everybody's from here.
Well, just like you said, we're starseeds, so it's a spiritual thing. It's a spiritual thing. It's not.
Well,
It's not a physical thing that you're coming through in.
So then if it's not a physical thing, then why are we looking at it as flat? If it's not a physical thing, like
Because
There-
the
there's a-
light
there's a
that we
conflict-
live
there's
in
a
the solar
conflict in-
system. So with the solar system, that's the Earth as a ball going around the sun with other planets, but in reality, we're the center of this universe, right? We're at the center of everything. The Earth is at the center of everything, and everything evolves around.
but if the
They've
Earth
proven
goes
they've proven that not to be true, though.
if the Earth goes
Who's proven that?
500 light years that way,
Who's proving what you're talking
Clearly
So
about?
this is
there's
not
a
the
thing
center.
called zetetic science, right? So there's people that have gone and actually do it, and they've proven it. It's been proven for centuries.
What I'm trying,
Right?
what was in this constant state?
The flat earther knowledge is not nothing new, but the way how you're hearing it now, it's like it's new. But you can't get caught up with the English semantics to try to define what's already there, right? Because they believe that we go around the sun, but the sun goes around the earth. You have to know these stuff. Right?
but nobody who's been out there could prove that to me because you just said nobody can't leave.
Nobody's been out there.
All right, so how they know that the Earth goes around the sun? The sun goes around the Earth.
Because
if
what I'm
they
trying to
never
show
go
you,
there?
there's people that have taken balloons, rockets, there's all sorts of evidence. The sun and the moon are in our hemisphere. It's within our hemisphere. You're not going to go outside that firmament to find the sun. So the light that they told you that the sun's 93 million miles away from the earth, that is not true.
Okay,
And we
so-
probably even have more than one, because if you read the book of Enoch now, it tells you about how this world is in this portal. So the sun goes through a portal and then it reappears through a portal. And we can't just say that's this one. If you're going off of whatever a white man told you or this monkey science, then yeah, you'll be lost in the sauce. But
But we know that there's not one sun.
yeah, so
So and we know that if there's not one sun, there's no way that this is center of the universe. The universe is the quote unquote flat Earth is a rice grain in the universe. Like there's multiple thousands and millions of suns, universes, or whatever. So for us to even have the concept that we're the ones is warped. Because there's no way that the smartest people on the universe come from here. No way. It's impossible.
Even with that being said, because I have books on occult dictionaries which are banned, right? So even with the definition of Saphir, that's a belief that came with society, where they believe now that planets are in shape of a Saphir, and they even have evidence.
No, but
now.
if you include the dome, it's just like you said, hemisphere.
Okay,
So hemi is half, and sphere is circle. All right, so half a circle would mean a dome.
Yeah, but that's the shape of the dome. That doesn't mean that that's the shape of the plane that we're living on. And then even if you watch,
Yeah, but the sky is part of the plane because air is there. We need air to breathe. Without no sky, we don't have no breath. So that has to be part of the full thing. You can't look at the plane is one thing.
Within the firmament.
Say again?
Above, I said the air is within the firmament.
Right.
Above the
So-
firmament is water.
But again, like the what creates this plane is earth, air, fire, water. So we're gonna go with that. We can all agree that earth, air, fire, water is what creates this plane that we're living on, this existence.
I wouldn't say just that, but those are part of the elements. Yes.
Okay, so if those elements come together to create this, when these elements are separated, does it mean that they're not part of this?
No, but we already know that it's through photosynthesis, through the plants, and the plants produce the oxygen that we breathe. So you have to have plants. That has to be here. And that's here all over. That's really a part of the earth.
And when the plants create this air, it's that process creates something that is going as high up as it could go.
Yeah, but there's a capacity. It can't go past the firmament.
Right. So if it can't go past the firmament, that means the firmament is just that little whatever that's keeping everything in.
Okay, I'll give you a perfect example. What gives a rainbow an arc? The arc that you see, what gives that arc to that rainbow?
That's based on the light.
I know, but how can light bend? It has to have something. And the reflector, right? The thing that the light is reflecting off of is what's giving that the arc, and that's the shape of the firmament.
Okay, but it's not a denial of the firmament being there. It's not a denial that the firmament's there. We know that the firmament's there, right? The fact that the firmament's there is what's creating this so-called
hemisphere.
Okay, so if the hemisphere is being created and we can visualize that, okay, there's a dome and it's making a half circle around this plane, then this thing is obviously part of this plane, because anything that's up here is not out here in the universe.
Connected to here.
It has to be connected to inside the bubble. It's not outside the bubble in its own entity. So we have to agree, we have to come to, I mean, we can say the plane, okay, so the plane is flat and the firmament is sphere. So then,
Not sphere, hemisphere.
okay, so even if it's hemisphere, right? So what's under this flat thing? That's the next question, because if it's flat, it has an under, it has a bottom.
Sure, so then when they began to speculations of the center of Earth and other dimension, or as above, so below, whatever, you can leave your mind to, but at the end of the day, we need proof and evidence. But what I say before.
I also feel that we're sitting here arguing about stuff that, and I was talking to more back here, we're being distracted. Like, we got other stuff to deal with. I think Todd would say it best, you know, you're starting to deal with stuff, you know, if the aliens were running the show, why aren't they here?
But who are the aliens?
We gotta deal with the science and the stuff that's affecting us now. That's how I see it, personally. Right, you wanna be talking about that, then, you know, maybe we need to have another class on that.
right? But we're arguing about whether the earth is round or flat.
Which is why, again,
We got people shooting us out here because we're calling ourselves black. You're worried about.
well, I'm sure some of those people think that the earth's flat too.
Well, exactly. Right?
Well, actually, just to add to it, because, I mean, it is a topic out there where there's a lot of information about it, where, I mean, there's a debate about it, so even for me, that's something I'm not too sure about either. So for me, I mean, it was very informative. So I'm not saying, we should be on it the whole class, but I'm just saying it was, what I mean? Because we're learning every aspect.
It was discussion, yeah. I mean, information don't stop. Christopher Columbus,
I was just saying, and more importantly, how is that affecting our day-to-day stuff right now?
That does affect our everyday, because
How?
where are we living? Where are we living? We're living on Earth, are we not? So if you don't even know where you're living or what you're living on, that is
Right.
going to affect you, no matter what.
Well, and how is that affecting you now? So now that you have that knowledge, how is that affecting you in your day-to-day stuff?
I don't let it affect me because, like,
You
for
don't-
me, I
so wait, you
don't
just say you don't
believe
let it
in
affect you?
information. And I observe for myself, and I've been an observer for over 2 years to
Right.
know how this earth functions, along with ancient scriptures or whatever.
Right, I'm saying that knowledge now, with this world being flat, instead of, let's say, before that you knew it was round, how is that specific information now helping you, let's say, in this paradigm right now, of them declassifying us and denationalizing us and doing that kind of stuff? So how is that right now helping us to that extent? Except to possibly taking your energies away from dealing with the real stuff that we need to deal with, which is getting ourselves back to that level, because obviously they got the information. Right? They have
regardless of the information you're saying,
What do you
like
mean?
regardless of whether flat Earth theory or
Yeah,
sphere,
but
or
I'm saying
whatever,
all
it's
of
a
it, all
it's
of
a
it part of that.
diversion tactic.
Of
to-
course it is.
Yeah.
Of course it is yet again, right? So here we are gonna spend our time dealing with
Right,
this. when
5
we got-
hours debating
When we
about-
gotta get ourselves back to that level of, like you're saying, the spirit of knowing ourselves, right?
Right.
Because the spirit's not held in by the firmament. You just said that, right? So spirits are coming back and forth through this, whether that matters or not to us. Because as they say, what does the earth being flat right now have anything to do with me going to the slave tomorrow and having my taxes being taken off? So I agree, like we have, there's all kinds of stuff. The hollow earth theory, all that stuff.
Speaking about the hollow earth theory, page 48. Christopher Columbus was a Jewish traveler who was paid to find a new land for other Jews who were being exiled from Spain for child sacrifice and harvesting human organs. Guided by the Moors who had already established a government here, they were led to the land of Canaan. The Afro-indigenous inhabitants were known as Americans. Ama or Amarukans. Ama meaning lord or soul, and Rukan meaning land or people, landlords or soul people, but anciently known as Canaan. Europeans and the Moors began to sell and displace hundreds of thousands of these copper-colored indigenous people, selling them mainly to Britain, England, and displacing many throughout the American Atlantic islands, making room for Jewish immigrants with their tens of thousands of quote-unquote white Irish slaves. The indigenous people were called Indian in hopes that they would accept that title, thus abandoning legal rights to their land for future generations. Later, the descendants of the indigenous survivors were told lies that they were from Africa. Today, they are falsely known as African Americans, African meaning bondage or enslaved, Americans meaning a native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. So when we presented to the brothers that, even though he's claiming that there's issues with the Moors and, Moors did this, Moors did that in history or whatever like that, he's darker than me. And Moor is any dark-skinned person, especially African Negro. So whatever set that he's claiming is irrelevant with regard to the grand scheme that he's a Moor as well. Especially if he's claiming that he's from Canaan. Right? His claim is that we are Canaanites. The Noble Drew Ali directed us to make sure that we check out the history of the Canaanites, and he also qualified that the Canaanites were ancient that he was talking about. So if he's using the term ancient, then there has to be a modern version of these people. And again, if we're going with the modern version of these people, then we're going to get into the lost story about who we are, not the actual factual of who we are. And like we say, once we adopt our Moorish nationality, you have to accept the good that we did with the bad. You're not going to half take our Moorish history. You're either going to accept all, which includes all the BS that we did and all the great things that we did, or don't accept any. Because the point of the matter is that no matter what you do, regardless of your intent or your motives, your lineage, your descendancy remains the same. But guaranteed, those actions that you take and the intentions you have and what drives you as far as your motives is going to determine what happens in the other planes that we go to after here. Because everybody always wants to see the European get paid back and stuff for all the stuff that they did to our people or whatever like that. It ain't happen, it's not happening on this plane. It's not happening in this lifetime. One or two of them might get something. But that's something that the higher forces, ancestors, whoever, are going to take care of. No different than these individuals that are doing the undermining of what was presented for the Moors to be free. The fact that there's so many different Moorish whatever. And then when you go check them out, none of them got Noble Drew Ali up front. They're putting different people on their silver and stuff like that, saying that, yeah, that's who our whoever is. And they're abandoning this man who brought them everything that it takes to save a nation. And when you call them on it, they say you got problems and you're divisive and you don't want unity amongst the people. No, it's just we don't want unity with sellouts and agents and COINTELPRO people who we know are going to undermine this. Because they've been on this campaign to make sure that our people don't study. As soon as the people aren't studying, that's when they're game to get taken advantage of. The more that they don't study, the more people are going to be coming at them to game them. Just like we said, there's Moors in this temple that left this temple and are part of new stuff that their name's Ali now. Right? Whoever it is that said, hey, we're going to recruit you into our stuff because you're out here and blah, whatever like that, that person dropped their LB and now they adopted Ali. And again, goes back again that if that's where they're going, then that proves that they had motives. Forget their intentions. Motives were driving them. And it goes back to the same thing that Noble Drew Ali said, jealous of the fame and nobility. Everybody wants to be somebody, but nobody wants to put into work to be what they want to be. Everybody wants that stuff handed to them. Please, Mark.
Yes, just to add to that, so the same person approached me, right, and they basically said, check out this this form, the SF-181, I guess it's called, I can't remember. But then,
And what is that form?
it's a form for status, saying if you're black, white, Asian, or so basically it's for some Department of Education, something that changes your status to white. So you change your status to white, which is all fine and dandy, but you know what I mean?
So this is from the government of Canada, it's a form sort of thing?
No,
I'm just trying to, huh?
it's from
Yeah, UDOT's Department
Yeah.
of whatever.
whatever.
Oh, you know of this, Cujo?
Yeah,
So this is from the States, it's something that you then change your status to?
yeah, because they have certain distinctions
Right?
that you can check off to
Right.
say which one you are. Then that's filed in some U.S. Department records or whatever that everybody will check.
Corporate, whatever.
So once you fill this out, you know what I mean, whatever. Now when you go to the site of these people,
Mhm.
right, they tell you, one, that this so-called form is for federal employees only.
So putting you under their jurisdiction again.
All right, so federal employees only, right? If you're an employee, that means you work for the corporation,
Yeah.
right? Federal, we already know because of the dissolution, you know, they say federal, they're not talking about government, right? They're the Federal Express employee, they ain't no government employee. It's just whatever, right? And then two, federal employees only, and, there's something to do with this form being for minorities. This is on the site where you get the form.
So putting you into that jurisdiction.
They break this down to you. Right? That federal employees only fill out this form, which means they put you under jurisdiction, and that this form is for minorities.
Put you in a
which
status.
means they're putting you into jurisdiction.
Sorry, so, Cyrus, you said there was something else, or was that? Or
So basically, the person they sent me the link to that, so when I looked it up and I talked to them again, I realized that, well, I see where you're coming from, but I proclaim, and so, proclaim trumps that. So, I don't know, why would I want to send it to some place where, you know, I'd rather send my proclamation.
Right.
If anything.
Exactly.
And just, sorry, just.
Opposed to sending the SF-181 form
Yeah,
to them, why don't you just send your paperwork?
exactly.
Put them on notice of what your status is. Why you need their form to tell you what your status is, and then you're gonna submit the form, so they keep the original. You don't even get the form, they keep the form.
But the funny part was, he sent me a link to, I guess, the person who's pushing it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's basically talking about the status part of the science, which is, you're not black.
Remember who it was
I
that
can't
was?
remember his name, but he's wearing feathers and stuff. He's wearing some,
Oh, that's
feather
probably,
caps.
with the Mohawk?
No, you did a video on him
Yeah.
just
Okay.
recently. He spells his name, like L-I-E-L-I or something like that.
Oh, Nanya? You talking
Yeah,
about? Oh,
He's back. so that's
Oh
who,
my God.
that's who he's with.
That's who he's with?
Yeah, so then I was watching the video
God.
now. I'm like, okay, he's not saying anything about noble drug. He's not saying anything about more. He's just saying about the status. No,
So
black
can I-
status, white status, which is information, yes. But
Nanya.
I'm like, I said to me, just my vibes.
That's who they go with.
Yeah.
Of all people out there.
So my vibe was like,
Are we talking about the
sounds-
same Ali man?
Huh?
Are we talking in reference to Ali? Or Ali?
Yeah,
Is that who-
yeah.
no, not Ali's man. The same. From
No,
the-
not Ali's man, but he now has name Ali instead of El Bay or whatever.
Yeah, I know.
So that's who they're with now?
Yeah,
Wow.
that's who they're with.
Okay.
They're with Nanya Shabuel.
Yeah, that's who he was.
So
So
was there,
like you're saying, to me, when I saw like his presentation and stuff, to me it just sounds like he's just trying to get fame, like you said. He's just doing his version of more science, so he could get his fame on or get his notoriety. Like, you know, to me, that's what it looked like to me. With not even knowing about the whole story till it kind of unfold now. But to me, just my first inspection was
Yeah.
that this guy is trying to do his thing. He's trying to
Yeah.
get fame. Because he's
Right.
not saying nothing about Moorish science. He's not saying about noble duality. He's just on the status, black
Just
and
want
white.
to make a name for themselves.
Yeah.
So is there a
And
cost
then,
for this
and
too?
then get that off the people. Make a name for themselves off the people suffering. After people being more ignorant, they want to get a name.
Right, and then it sounds, because of this form now, then it just sounds like, to me, it was just like a gimmick to me. So
Yeah,
it's
well,
like-
I mean, again, you know, like what we're outlining was that if the FBI is the Federal Bureau of Investigation, right? And the FBI are the ones who brought Nanya Shabuel from Atlanta to Calgary or whatever, right? Then he works for them.
Hey, how are you?
Because why would they escort him here? What did he do that they're escorting him here?
Yeah, they should drop on the border.
Like, drop the guy off, put him on the plane, he gets on the plane, those guys pick him up on the other side, and then that's that. Why is he getting personal escort? Unless he works for them. Which would make him a federal employee, which would mean push the SF 181 for him. Because he's working with the federal side. But he's moral. And then keep in mind, when you go through Nanya Shabuel's history now, why would they be pushing people to push SF 181 forms, which comes from U.S. Corporation, when according to him, he made claims against U.S. Corporation and Canada and whatever, and he owns those. So if he owns those corporations, then why is he still going to them to fill out the form if he owns the corporation? If he put a lien on the Queen and all that stuff, then why is he still stuck in Calgary? How come he ain't going all over the place? How come he doesn't get rid of that deportation order? If he leaned the Queen and all that. Well, why is he, not coming here to get with these Moors who want to be sideways? Why is everything done online? Because a lot of these people, they've taken the position of fame and nobility opposed to wake up their people.
So can I ask more questions? Is there supposed to be some benefit from that form?
Well, they're pushing that you'll change your status from black to white. So yeah, then you'll get benefits. So from what the other person was telling me, what had changed his name to Ali, was that they're working on properties and stuff. Like he wasn't saying anything specific, just like working on stuff. Like what does working on mean? But whatever. Like he didn't really care to know
So
anyway.
you can't work on those stuff under Bay and L or something? You need Ali to work on them?
And then was there a cost attached?
No, I didn't even get. I didn't because once I watched the video and I
So
noticed
that was
that
it.
they didn't say nothing about Moors. They never mentioned Moors one time. No Noble Ali. They were just on the form and the status. That was it.
And then and people have to also too make sure that they recognize that us using Noble Drew Ali as a template to show other people, that your stuff's off or whatever like that. There's nothing to do with we're Noble Drew Ali dick riders or nothing like that. We honor him, bow down to Noble Drew Ali, got pendants of Noble Drew Ali and all that stuff. That's not what. It's the information that he brought. The information what he brought is what makes him the man that we respect him for, the prophet that he is. It's not him, the body. It's the info that he presented to us. Why we honor, respect, and look up to him. It's not because we're chasing his coattail or whatever to try to be something because he did it. There was more before Noble Drew Ali. It's not his stuff that he started. Flag's 10,000 years old. Like Noble Drew Ali ain't but so it's bigger than him even. But we're gonna give credit where the credit is due because we understand what it is that he went through to bring what it is that he brought, which Moors who have taken what he brought without SF 181 forms, without UCCs, without claiming birth certificates, without putting liens on whatever like that, they exercise their nationality and they don't have no issues.
Exactly. So That's why, to me, it's important that we honor him. Right? Like you said, we're not man worshiping, but he set everything up for us that all we have to do now is just proclaim. You don't gotta really do nothing more
Right.
than maybe send out a couple paperwork, but I mean, other than that, you just proclaim and you do your part in uplifting,
And uplifting your people.
and
And
pretty
that's,
much
that's,
it.
that's another, prerequisite to your stuff working, as far as exercising your rights. If you're not putting this on to anybody else, if you're not trying to let your people who are ignorant of this know about it, don't think you're gonna exercise it and it works. This doesn't work like that. Because Nobujuali put a big ritual on all these Moors out here. The dirty ones, they're gonna get theirs for doing dirty because they agreed to the covenant. If you violate the covenant, the covenant wasn't between Nobujuali or whatever, the covenant was between Allah and you. That you're gonna look after your brother or sister and all that. So you keep playing that, but we're not gonna, we can do whatever. Because we're Moors. Well, Moors have a covenant. That it's an obligation to look after your brother and sister. Have to. You're not doing that, don't worry about your birthrights not being stolen. Because they will be stolen. Anyhow, we're just going to deal with some of these questions. And any questions or comments?
I was just going to make the comment, we've been talking earlier before class started in regards to, this thing being a continuum. Back when Noble Drew Ali was around, they had the same sort of processes that were trying to denationalize us, which I think all of us have come to the realization that that's the principles that run sort of the human condition here. And what I think we've been noticing, I think Cujo, you and I were talking about it with the anti-black violence group and my, workers of Aboriginal and workers of color thing. They just continue to throw distractions at us. Even this flat Earth thing, which, hey, let's put it all out there. That could be true, but as I say, to me, I see this being much more, because we're on the human level, even this SFP, whatever. This is them continuing to try and find new angles to keep us distracted, to keep us off of what this is all about. Because the truth, remember, never changes, but it's the lies that are always changing, right? So we just have to keep, I think we just have to keep our eyes on the prize, so to speak. And don't get distracted by this, because that's all this is.
That's all it is.
SFP 11 whatever. Last time it was whatever else it was, authenticating the birth certificate, the anti-black thing.
It's always something.
Right? But the problem for them is the truth stands on its own. That's the foundation. Everything else is the illusion. So it has to keep changing, because every time you then, it's like that illusion that you punch and it disappears, they gotta come up with something else.
Illusion. Right. Somebody sent a question with regard to coming into adverse possession of an acre supposedly owned by corporations, intends to farm. Would this be something worth putting more energy into? Well, if we look at, again, with regard to any type of activity or anything that's done, it's useless to attempt to do something without full knowledge of it. If you don't have full knowledge of, farming, which includes astrology or whatever, don't worry about farming, because you're probably not going to yield no crops anyways. If you're talking about adverse possession, or claiming whether it's property, land, or whatever, if you're not square in your mind about status, whatever you claim, you're gonna lose anyways. No different than, we go back again to Malachi York, that they had property and all that stuff. They had land and all that, and then lost it, because they didn't understand what status was. They thought that it was only about jurisdiction. And once you make a claim, then your claim stands. Well, Nuapians are not a nation. Nuwapians are only a nation when they're a nation of Moors. Nuwapians is not a nation just standing on its own to call themselves whatever they want. They're a nation of Moors. If they had Moors attached to their stuff, there wouldn't be no problems right now. No different than, you know, with this situation, you know, claiming adverse or coming into adverse possession of land that is supposedly owned by a corporation. It's probably owned by the corporation. You should probably go to the county records or something like that, check out abandoned lots, and see what lots are abandoned and claim those. No different than people want to claim houses. Okay, if you're going to claim a house, claim the stuff with the grass growing out the window. Don't claim the stuff that's already souped up, 8 bedrooms and stuff like that, iron fence on it and all that stuff. Don't claim those ones. Go claim the ones that are abandoned. But then, you know, it comes back to that saying that if people are going to make claims and have to put in work, they're probably not going to make the claim because, you know, ain't nobody interested in working. Everybody wants just to get handout. Right? Normal tell you, he's still working on cars, still. Still getting hands dirty. Regardless how much time put in or whatever like that, regardless how much stuff you think you know, if you're not getting your hands dirty, then you're not going to benefit. You're not going to get anything back. Only way you get out is what you put in. And majority of people want to not put in but get out. Right? Keep pushing this idea that being an active Moor does not have to do with claiming properties. Being an active Moor does not have to mean go to court and stand up before a magistrate. Being an active Moor doesn't mean getting pulled over here and you give them a nationality card or whatever like that because, you know, they stopped you or whatever. Right? Those things come with being Moor, being active. Because the things that you do are going to be done based on your mindset. The individual who doesn't have the mindset of right to travel is never going to right to travel ever, no matter what. No matter how much Moorish plates are out here, if their mindset isn't right to travel, they're just going to look at that as just people with plates that are different than the ones that I normally see. So there has to be a wanting to be an expert by Moors before they say, okay, I'm going to, right? Not because we had knowledge that Noble Juali said, write books, that you just went to write a book. No, like you got an editor and all that stuff, got a publisher, and you went through the motions of doing this thing. You're not doing it just because it was said to do or whatever, right? There has to be a wanting to be expert before we apply with Moors. It can't be, I'm not an expert, but let's go do something out here that experts do. That has gotten people injured. And we're telling people, don't do that because you're going to get injured. We have a track record of people getting injured doing stuff premature. And again, that this is your birthright. So don't think that any BS that you do is falling on the nation or falling on the Grand Sheik or falling on the temple you belong to or whatever. Any BS you do, as Moors, BS is falling on you because now you're supposed to be responsible now. Ain't nobody died for your sins and stuff like that when you say you're a Moor. You're responsible for your own sins. So make sure that you're not sinning. Make sure you're not missing the mark. Right? So, you know, we're employing people. We know that times are messed up and all that stuff, and people are, you know, grasping at straws. Right? As dire as things might seem, if we're looking at ourselves from the perspective of in this world, not of this world, then all these dire things become nothing. You realize it's part of your initiation to the next level that you're going to. You have to go through some hard stuff before things are easy. It's not just going to be, we were Negroes for 40, 50, whatever years, coming to this information, and then automatically everything just turns over tomorrow to how we think it should be because now we have this mind. No, we have to detox, which again is the importance of studying and making sure that you're putting your time in, just like you put your time into anything else. Put your time in to make sure that, you watch all the season games so your team gets the playoffs so you can watch playoff games. Time that you put into that, same time you put into studying. Same time that you put in, make sure that, this meal tastes good or whatever like that, same time you're gonna put it into studying. Right? Questions, comments?
Comments like it's good when whatever you study and you learn, it's good when you have people you could talk to about it, like discuss it with.
Right.
And it only can be your own people.
Right.
Because when I have a sister, and when I talk to her, she said, "You're the only one I can talk to. I can't talk to the rest of none of the brothers and sisters.
Right.
I can't talk to them." So it's not only you studying and you knowing it, but you can even exercise it with the general public. So it's a lot to do.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And which is why the whole concept is create a body.
Yeah.
So that it's not just you alone.
No.
Because only when it's you alone does it feel like, oh, you're carrying the world on your shoulders. But once you got people that you can divvy off the work on, then the work becomes easier. You know what I mean? Islam. I am Terrence Washington. I've been searching website after website, each website more confusing than the last. I've called numbers and I've sent many messages, but they all go unanswered. I'm also having some difficulty locating a temple in my area. If you can, please help me. I've been studying the sciences and following Moorish programming for about 3 years now. I've given countless notes for books and literature in that time. Eager to be who I am. Well, again, like we tell Moors, we have honorary membership at our temple, mainly for Moors who are outside of Canaanland that are going through the same issues like the brother. There's no temple where they live at. They went to the temple and it was like church there, and what I'm studying that temple doesn't want to deal with or whatever like that. So we open up our doors so that honorary members or people who don't have temples where they're at could become honorary members of our temple. So what you do is you would email the secretary, Amari El Bey, and just request for Amari El Bey at hotmail.com and just request the membership form. As far as the studying, we say rvbaypublications.com because that's the site that allows you to learn for yourself. rvbaypublications.com. That site allows you to learn yourself. There's no handouts, there's no whatever, there's tests on there for you to take tests yourself. Ain't nobody giving you no tests. You're gonna go on there and take the test yourself, see what you know. Right? Because there's no we have the class forum and we have a phone number you can call, we build and all that stuff, but ultimately it's gonna come down to how much time you wanna put into you knowing for yourself. It's like one of the Moors was showing he did a Facebook Live yesterday talking about, I think it was the Bruce Lee story. And then it was talking about how when he got his back injury, that all he did was read. and you know they had him in front of the books that he read, and he was like shelves of books that he read during that time. So studying is something Asiatic, right? Studying is something that we should be doing. Yes, we have, you know, YouTube, internet, you know, Google, social media, they have all these things. But nothing reaches you like you digesting the information yourself and having that eureka moment for yourself, right? Anybody can put out reference points for people to say, oh wow, I never thought about that. But for you to get it yourself and think that you never thought about that is going to impact you totally different than somebody else telling you. Which is again why Drew Ali said, man knows not by being told. Because if man studied, he'll find out more stuff than he was told, right? That would pretty much destroy everything that he was told, right?
Just to add to that.
Yeah, more.
But it all goes back to the programming, because as growing up, we are taught to study these things that made no sense to us. It was boring, so we hated studying. Going to school and stuff. I mean, I hated studying, but the fact that now, even now that I do study, I still find myself in that trap of that programming of, you know, not wanting to study, not really not wanting to study, but not read. It's mostly reading, put it that way, you know what I mean? Because I have to say that, thank goodness to the videos on YouTube, you know, Canaanland videos and Taj and all that stuff. That's what helped me out in the beginning.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? But from there, like you said, you kind of transition yourself, you know? I mean, I'll get books, I might not read them right away, but anytime I have time, I know that I have the material already, so, you know what I mean? I just put in as much reading as I can. And like you said, there's a different moment when you read it, and it's like, you know, the information is more, it resonates more in a sense to where, you know what I mean, you could basically have it for yourself.
Right.
Right, so, I mean, like I said, we've been programmed not to read or anything about ourselves. So, I mean, a lot of people, I refer them to RV Bay, and it's like, I know it's a lot of information, but it has everything that you need, right?
Yeah.
And if you want to know about rates, it has everything. If you want to know about contracts, it has everything.
If you want to know about claiming property, adverse possession, mortgage fraud, driver's license fraud,
Everything.
taxes, astrology, whatever, everything's on there.
Everything that they
Everything's
don't
there.
teach us.
Right.
Right, so, I mean, I'm just grateful and I appreciate all that's out there.
Right.
Because before the Moors, before I knew about the Moors, it felt like I never even heard about it. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, how could I never heard about this? There's so much information. I don't know if this information came within the last 4 to 5 years, but before that, it seems like there was really nothing out there. It could just be my ignorance, but now there's so much information that sometimes I think it's too much.
Yeah.
Because there's so much out there.
Yeah.
Filter.
Yep. And you know, it's like if you're not studying, you won't even know how to filter.
Exactly.
If you don't have the basic foundation, then you know you're gonna be taking in the stuff that you're supposed to be filtering, and then casting away the stuff that you're supposed to keep.
Exactly.
Right?
And
Again,
there's
because
and
of
there's
the
so
lack.
much now. There's
So much
now.
information out now.
I mean, I can't believe within like, I mean, I've been on Moors now for the last 3 years, since 2013.
Yeah.
And there is so much information now.
Yeah.
It's like too much.
And I mean, again, too, you know, like we're dealing with the whole thing with the age and where we're at right now. So, you know, the guy with the picture tipped over right now. So, you're gonna get it, you know, if you want it. If you don't want it, then, you know, it's just gonna be stuff out there. And then, just like you said, you know, all these people who are, I don't know about the Moors, whatever like that. Then 3 years from now, they're gonna be on this, but they're gonna be You know what I mean?
Exactly. So when you do hear stuff that's
Up to here or not?
sounds, even if you're not sure, even if it sounds legit, because some of the stuff really sounds legit, you know what I mean? But there's something in you to say, well, from the basic stuff that I've been taught, that doesn't make any sense. So it's like, you know, either I'll go research it more, or I'm not even gonna deal with that, because the basic stuff is, I just feel like I'm at the basic even of all the information it's like every time I turn around, there's something more,
Yeah.
there's something new.
Yep.
It's like I can't catch up.
And also too, for the moderation of the studying, so you're not overwhelming yourself or whatever, you can do, you know, chapters a day, you know.
Yeah.
So you start off with, you know, one book chapter a day. Then, you know, by the time 3 weeks you got, you know, you're doing 4 chapters of 4 different books, one chapter from 4 different books every day. You know what I mean? It'll get you somewhere. It might not be, you know, because like we're saying, it's not, you know, no competition thing or whatever like that. Everybody's gonna do on their own level. You know what I mean? As far as getting the information. But, you know, like people who are out there feeding and I need to know more, and you just go to RVB, trust me, that site will have you there for a few years.
Yes.
Just going through the tabs. Start the top tab, going on. Anything that you can click that's gonna open, click that, open it. Start at the top and then move down. You know what I mean? And when you also too, with regard to studying, also have so like for example, makes a reference to a particular incident, you know, historical incident. You know what I mean? Mark that spot and then go check out the historical stuff that you just found out. You know what I mean? Or the metaphysical stuff that you found out, or, you know, a word you don't know, stop at that point and then go look it up. Don't pass it. Oh yeah, I'll go back to that later, because you never end up going back later.
It's true.
You always, just like you're saying, there's so much info that it's always tumbling into something else, into something else, into something else. They got stuff that, you know what I mean? Like we started reading that. I ain't seen those stuff in 3-4 years, books or whatever. Never even went back to them because so much stuff came out that those things just got lost in, and you know, some of those things were good books. You know what I mean? That we need to get some certain reference points or whatever from them. You know? So, Brother J. Holmes Bay, if there's any Moors in Houston, Brother J. Holmes Bay is looking for some Moors in Houston to build with. So you could contact Canaanland Guide at gmail.com and just shoot us an email that you're in Houston, Texas, and we'll send the contact for the brother to you.
Houston, Georgia.
Oh, look at that. So I got an email from Brother Nassim. Brother Nassim is 45 minutes outside of Houston. So all these Moors in Houston trying to find each other. We'll help y'all out. Anybody else got questions? Just want to look out or look into the so-called natives. The so-called natives mad at the Caravana costumes this year, because they got Indian feathers on them and stuff like that. There's a lot more.
So,
They got the Indian feathers on them. You know what I mean? They're trying to tell, you know, to the black people that they can't do that. They're appropriating native culture and all this other stuff.
I'm not.
I think it might have been the window too.
Right?
No way.
And
Are you serious?
and the Negroes are like,
I don't
they made some good points about, well, you know, here in Toronto, this stuff that came out in Toronto, that it's only here where you have the Aboriginal culture tied with nigger culture. So only for Carabana in Toronto, you're gonna see chief feather whatever with bikini. Like, you're not gonna see that if you go Trinidad, whatever other islands, they're gonna have the full stuff on. Because in the islands they look at it as, you know, cultural. This is a black culture because, you know, some quote unquote blacks identify as the Aboriginal people. Only in over here do we have this blockage of that we're the natives, right? Like, they block that they're the natives. The black people aren't the natives. Black people, they came over here from somewhere else. They came from the islands. They came from whatever like that, but they're not natives, right? People on the islands are like, yeah, well, we're natives. And we're, you know what I mean? So they're not going at caravan all over the place. They're specifically going at these individuals in this jurisdiction who are claiming that this is some cultural whatever, but they got bikinis on and bati riders and stuff like that, right? And, you know, me and Brother Omar were talking about earlier about how this is also proof of the whole thing falling over. It's proof that the stuff's coming to an end.
Get you mix up.
Right? Everything's so convoluted that you have people who aren't native, right, protesting against people who are native, right, that don't know that they're native, that they're stealing their culture, which is really their stuff, right? They're excising their own culture. They're getting told they're stealing their own stuff. And then the people who's claiming that that's their culture, they stole that stuff from them, right? And then the people aren't recognizing that they are the natives, they are the Aboriginal people. You're actually exercising your culture. Whether you wear a bikini, bati riders, whatever like that, doesn't even matter. Because it's your culture. Do with it what you want. Whether it's negative, positive, you know, it's up to you. Do whatever you want with it, right? So, few CBC covered it, and so in a statement on Facebook, Carnival Nations, which is the name of the band, right? Carnival Nations said the 2 lines of costumes were meant to pay homage to Canada's First Nations. The mass band said it consulted with a member of the Chippewas of Rema First Nation and included an image of her Indian status card in the Facebook post, and is expected to be in talks with a chief and council of the First Nation band. Right, sir? So keep in mind what they just said, right? The First Nation band. The First Nation is not a nation. First Nation's a tribe of Indians.
So what you're saying they're gonna have a float or a truck?
Yeah, they're gonna have a meeting
Oh, a meeting. I thought you said
with a chief from the council of the First Nation band, not the First Nations. If they're nations, they wouldn't be classified as a band. If they're saying First Nation, remember, First Nation is supposed to be all of them. First Nations is all of them. Okay, but they're admitting that they're a band. So you have all the different tribes, right? It's no different than when we look at you have all the different states and then all the states became corporations, right? And then under the state corporations, the city corporations. And then the city corporations are, and the city corporations are part of the country corporation, right? There's all these different levels that's at play. But all the levels are one thing. There's not all these different cities. All these different cities are part of one state, province, whatever.
Are they subdivided?
Right.
Are they subdivided?
It's I mean the subdivision is
On paper.
more internal, right? But the subs aren't really entities onto their own like that. They belong to a bigger entity, right? And again, in this case, the First Nations isn't the nations of the Indians and the Ojibwe and the whatever like that. All the so-called First Nations belong to the band called First Nations. And if they belong to the band, then that means they're not first. It's no different than, 100% beef is the name of what they're not selling.
Up at that conference I went to, I asked one of these Aboriginals, I said, so if you guys are First Nations, what's the name of your nation? Couldn't tell me.
Crickets.
Nation, nameless nation.
It's called first.
We apologize to anyone who we offended and hurt by our presentation. Our intention, remember the thing they were talking about, our intention was not to be disrespectful to the First Nations people. But there's no such thing as First Nations people, because First Nations is a band.
It's a band.
Right? So these people's ignorance now, that they think they're talking to some people called First Nations. Right? Our intention was not to be disrespectful to the First Nations people, but to be inclusive of them and to celebrate their true contribution to Canada. The statement did not say
Which Canada?
right. Right, and keep in mind, all the people who's playing them already know what they don't know. Right? The statement did not say whether the 2 lines of costumes would be dropped, as Stonefish and other indigenous people have called for. Stonefish said it is Stonefish. Stonefish would sing.
Stonefish.
What does Stonefish sing? Stonefish said it is particularly disrespectful given the nod to Canada's 150th anniversary.
Again, which
Canada's
Canada?
150th birthday is not exactly the happy story for Indigenous peoples, considering what we have had to endure over the last 150 years. We don't have a lot to really celebrate in terms of 150 years of Confederation. Festival spokesperson said costume designs are at the discretion of the mass band and the individual segments within. The Toronto Mass Bands Association, right, bands, right? The Toronto Mass Bands Association, right?
So it's association now?
Is fighting with the
Indian band.
Indian bands. Indian bands don't even have a band to play or whatever.
And another thing with the Indian band, they say they're like Canadian Indian band. And if they were here before Canadian, how could you be Canadian?
Canadian band, right?
Or they
right.
come after you and come get,
Right.
and you have to
If
take
you're
your
here
name.
first.
Yeah.
Right. The Toronto Mass Bands Association, which oversees the participating bands in discussion with members of the First Nation community. Our goal is to celebrate, to wow people, to have a really good time, he said. It's not to hurt people's feelings. We're going to make it right. Many online have drawn parallels to traditional quote-unquote Indian mass in Trinidad, but that is out of line, according to Camille Hernandez Randwar, the associate professor at Ryerson University who spoke to CBC Toronto from Trinidad. At the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival, there are mass characters that depict indigenous peoples, but the Carnival nation's costumes are not reflective of that tradition. If you had seen presentation of Indian mass at Trinidad Carnival, you would not be making this argument right now. It has nothing to do with bikinis and beads and putting on a headdress. That is no different than the people at Coachella doing it. Hernandez Ramdwar, whose research focuses on Caribbean studies, said traditional Indian mask characters include black Indians, blue Indians, wild Indians, red Indians, and fancy Indians. It is a very specific kind of mask, she said. It has a specific kind of costuming. It has specific dances that go with it. There's even some languages that people have created over the years. It's a street theater in what it is, and this has absolutely nothing to do with that. The quote-unquote fancy Indians, she said, is rooted in Hollywood's representation of indigenous peoples with its elaborate feathered headdresses and is arguably appropriation. So the Toronto Caravana people are dressing up like the fancy Indians, with the king with the Nanya headdress, right? Using that is really the appropriation, but it's Hollywood they should be fighting, not the individuals who have adopted what it means to be Indian by Hollywood standards, right? So her argument is that these individuals not supposed to be going at these people that are practicing this thing that they were trained to practice.
By Hollywood.
They should be going at Hollywood, who created this concept of these fancy Indians, as they call them, which are the ones that have the long feather crowns and stuff like that, and they got the, half dress stuff like that, cut off stuff and whatever, ooh, and all that stuff. bow and arrow guy, right?
Yeah, but just to add to that though, but even on Pinterest, like sometimes I surf through there and you'll see pictures of maybe Moors in America, like maybe from the 1500s, 1600s, and you'll see Moors wearing the certain headdress,
Right.
like with the feathers and the and not that much clothing, which is, to me, that's our culture anyways. So like everything of the Moors, everybody adopted it and made their variation of it. So they might have had the elaborate feathers, but it originated from us, because just going through the histories of the pictures that have been painted of our people, when foreigners came here, we had pictures of feathers and bow and arrows and spears, but we also had long gowns and
Right. It wasn't just that, right.
so we dressed according to whatever we felt like.
Yeah.
It wasn't exclusively
Right, a certain way. Yeah, just like the same thing with language. There wasn't an exclusive language for Asiatics in some particular period of time, right? During different periods of time, Asiatics had multiple languages. There's no time that we're going to research our people and, oh yeah, these guys spoke this language and that was it, right? So it's the same thing with the culture of quote-unquote more Indians that throughout this atmosphere of all these so-called tribes or whatever like that, there was so much different culture that, for somebody to use something, it couldn't be called, appropriating the culture, because there's so much stuff. You know what I mean? Like they're looking at the concept that the Caribbean carnival people are using is the fancy Indian stuff that was created in Hollywood, not the native stuff that's ancient, the Hollywood stuff. And then they're going at those people like, you guys are appropriating the culture, when It's not them. They're only adopting what they think Indians dress like. But that was created from Hollywood. Right? Melanated Moorish Empress just sent a committee reading for Moors to check out in the National Archives, written 1 month after the Declaration of Independence. Committee report on a plan of treaties, 27th of August 1776. 27th of August 1776, committee report on a plan of treaties. Sis said for the Moors to take that in. We also, before we close out, we just want to send a Mother's Day greeting to all the mothers every day, 365 days. But we don't do no one day. Don't do no one day honoring of the matriarchal principle.
That's right.
So make sure tomorrow you tell her Happy Mother's Day too, and like Joali said, give her 2 apples so you could be stress-free in your homes with your wives and mothers and whoever else. Everybody good? Questions? Any comments before we close out? Any announcements? Any announcements?
Well, just more or less in line, did you speak on the, I came late, so I don't know if you
No,
spoke
I
on
didn't even talk about that.
Okay, just more or less, Moors, we're gonna put it out there right now. I don't know if y'all looked at the window, but it's cracked some more. We don't know if it's someone went at it again, or it just from the vibrations outside, but we're gonna be asking out there for some contributions. We're gonna have to replace it soon, sooner than later, more or less, but hopefully within the next week or so. So yes, we're asking for contributions to help to replace the window. We're gonna get pricings in regards to how much it's gonna cost just for the window. So if you could donate time to put it in, or donate funds to get it purchased, that's what we're asking for. All right, peace.
And June 25th, we're going to be having our summer solstice walk out at Fort Erie. So there will be further instructions to come.
You don't know time yet?
What, in terms of what do you mean time?
Like timing, what time will we?
Like exactly the time during the day or something?
Yeah.
Well, Kudra was saying that he was thinking about making it maybe an all-day thing, sort of like on that walk when we went
Oh,
to
up to-
The Hamilton?
You remember the Hamilton one? And so
Sure. All right.
Because from just a look quickly on when you went up, where you scoped out there, and what Moors could expect for the.
Oh, you're saying, oh, well, yeah, so it's right on Fort Lake Erie, which, as we know, that's where our ancient Moabites went to sort of do their rituals and stuff. So it's right there. There's it's right in sort of in the shadow of Fort Erie itself. So there's a big, huge sort of park area where the children can play. There's also a like a path, like a walking path that's sort of maybe a mile long, I would say, that we can sort of get out there and stretch our legs. And we're planning to have some catered food.
Yeah.
And let's get out there and honor the solstice, right?
Yeah. And if we want to, there might be carpooling, but we're looking at seeing if we can get some finance together to see if we can get a bus. And we just take everybody out there and then bring everybody back. Or maybe make the temple the meeting spot or whatever.
Okay.
So if there's anybody that wants to assist with finance for that, for us to get this bus for next month, we got a month still, about a month, a little over a month.
June 25th.
Yeah, a little over a month.
6 weeks maybe.
So we're going to be sending out the email with regard to that. Any Moors that want to assist with that, as well as the window. And then the bus is rental, not buy, so it's just so we can have the bus for the day or whatever.
Yes.
Oh,
I'm here.
And I think that's it. So Islam to all the Moors, Islam to all the mothers, and Happy Mother's Day to everybody's mom. And
Okay, give me 1 second.
we'll close out.
Give me 1 second. Okay, we'll just do something. I'll call. Give me 1 second. Don't go anywhere.
Oh yeah?
Sorry, get us no.
It's not.
No, not here.
Five on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth. Peace. Freedom. And justice. Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide. And my salvation. By night. And by day. Through his holy prophet. Noble Jew Ali. His love. Peace. Ashe.
One must be in the honor of one's mothers and fathers. This is why nationality is important, not just here in the world. But this is also why the Europeans here took our nationality and put brands on us and start teaching the Negro preachers to tell us they were Afrocentric identity.
Green Finch! What up? Feeling this one. I know you'll be feeling this one. Iron Sheep. Not that one. Moorish MC. As a slave, you know from where you came had a name. Ancestral estate claim, blacks always refrain. They don't wanna be Muslim or study Islam. Crack a hippie on the wall got me asking who's this man, cause he don't look like burnt brass from Revelations. Solomon said he was black but belonged to a nation. So don't bring that, it don't matter when we speak. Martin told you he wouldn't make it in the mountaintop speech. El Haj told you about Necro and Negro. Blacks didn't found shit, nigga. Humble your ego. Take some time to study, learn for once. Two continent named people are minors and think like a dunce. Cunts. No matter what they do or what they say, they won't see nationality the order of the day. So they stay begging for rights, calling people racist, claim to know themselves but don't know the basics. No matter what they do or what they say, they won't see nationality the order of the day. So they stay begging for rights, calling people racist, claim to know themselves but don't know the basics. Inquisition, you punks. Pope Francis used his authority to denounce the Catholic Christian doctrine of discovery, ended the statute of ultravires, revealed the hidden oath of the lawyer vampire, shutting down the squires and de facto empires. Got my Drew Ali shield walking through the fires of the Sodom and Gomorrah, modern day Rome, burning down to the ground, revealing my ancestral home. Northwest of Mexham, the Moors are back, enforcing the American Constitution, not the corporate acts or statutes or ordinances. Use will, no praying like mantis. From within is the rise of Lemuria and Atlantis. No matter what they do or what they say, they won't see nationality the order of the day. So they stay begging for rights, calling people racist, claim they know themselves but don't know the basics. No matter what they do or what they say, they won't see nationality the order of the day. So they stay begging for rights, calling people racist, claim they know themselves but don't know the basics.
But this is also why the Europeans here took our nationality and put brands on us and start teaching the Negro preachers to tell us they were Afrocentric identities. So our people are walking around calling themselves Negro, black, and colored and feeling free to do that, not knowing that it makes them non-descendable. And when you give them the law facts, they think you're competing with the schools of thought, would have nothing to do with anything that's on the discussion. It is legal status.